Colleges are now able to track student applicants' browser history. So that explains why some universities are now offering 4-credit courses on pornography. I'm Dr. Duke, she's Katie, and this is The Dr. Duke Show. Hello, everyone, and welcome to The Dr. Duke Show, the only program out there that keeps you educated on the craziness impacting K-12 classrooms and college campuses around the world. Today, we're headed to Boise State University to discuss why professors are being told not to grade students on merit. Plus, some disturbing video shows a high school teacher in Atlanta being beaten up and sent to the hospital after attempting to stop a fight in class. But we start with privacy concerns, as more than 44 universities are now tracking student applicants' web browsing activity before they're accepted or before they even apply. You now have programs where a kid goes to a college to check it out, thinks he might want to go to your school, and then all of a sudden, by going to that school, certain kinds of software kicks in that actually allows the university to look at your kid's browser history. All those years we've been telling you about this, all those talks we've given on Common Core, warning you about the data gathering aspects of what's coming to your schools. Does this not scare you? That your kid thinks he's going to your website at a university simply to look around and see if he likes your school. Meanwhile, at the moment he sets foot on your site, you begin studying where that kid also uses his browser. And can you imagine this? I mean, what if your kid's a Trump supporter? What if you got one communal computer for the family, and mom's a big Trump supporter, right? And your son, who's got a great worldview, got a great set of grades, all that stuff, hops on the same computer, and the school just sees that somebody on that computer supports Trump. You can't tell me that kid's not going to have a much harder time getting in. This is a very Orwellian place we're heading.
And we know this all happens from companies with Amazon. I mean, Sometimes it appears when you're online, if you even think about, maybe I'm going to buy some new shoes, you're thinking about it, and all of a sudden you start seeing these ads. That's fine and dandy for private companies to do this, but this is affecting students who may decide to apply and enroll at these universities. It's affecting their ability to even get accepted. And that's where it gets really dangerous too. So the Washington Post is the one who actually reported on this, saying that at least 44 public and private universities across the U.S. have started to work with these third-party companies to collect and track all this data and their financial history too. So all of these factors, it's not just one or two things maybe they're doing. It's from the time they look at the very first time they look at that university's website, they're on kind of the list then, and it could affect their acceptance.
It will affect their acceptance, and that's the thing that's so creepy about this is that, I'll be sitting in the room with my wife talking about something, you need to order this today, and literally 5 minutes later I turn on the computer, and all of a sudden, just because of the conversation, that stuff starts popping up. It is really shocking how sophisticated this is, but this is really serious now. You think about the degree to which social justice, radical left-wing political and philosophical thought has overridden universities now. I promise you that if you're looking at things or behaving in certain ways, or you're doing things, you're using your browser to even to focus on things that the university doesn't like, right? I mean, you're going to get doomed by this, and nobody seems to be that bothered by it.
And the thing is, when the Post looked even further into this, they found that of all the websites they looked at, just 3 of the 33 websites they looked at actually stated, hey, we're going to be, we have this tracking software, and kind of giving them a heads up about it. And schools have basically been able to skirt the rules with this too, because you're not allowed to share private, like the student information, this private information with third parties, but they classify these third parties then as school officials. So it looks like to mom and dad, my kid's information is being shared with school officials.
Right. Oh, boy.
But
we're so excited about your daughter.
School officials are,
and it's even more incendiary than that. It's not just that the universities are going to be monitoring your kids to see if they go to porn sites or to see if they're Trump backers. They're also doing it to find out if they think you can pay. So the other major aspect of this story is they're checking out finances. They're tracking out what kind of stores you shop at, what level of spending, credit reports, that kind of stuff. So in other words, if they bring you to their school, you got 2 kids with equal grades, 2 kids with equal social activities, 2 grades equally qualified with SATs, but one kid's family seems to be struggling financially, which means they might not be able to pay you, and the other kid's family seems to be flush with cash. Who do you think they're going to take? According to the Washington Post, these tracking services, these cookies that are being used to to enable the universities to see where you're going, these tracking services have become particularly popular among schools operating on tight financial budgets. Finding students with high levels of interest who also live in higher income communities and come from wealthier families, they become prime targets for those schools, right? Your kid's poor and really good versus rich and really good, and they can see that on your kid's browsing history. They're taking the rich kid every time. So much for your progressive bona fides universities.
Well, and then they're also taking those kids who seem to be out of state, because out of state tuition is a lot higher than the
unless
in-state.
You're an illegal immigrant,
and then
you don't have to pay at all.
Well, man, that's a good
Nice.
question. How is that whole thing going to work? So this whole duping process, I mean, we've been saying how bad the universities are, but now clear cut, obviously we know they're businesses. They're trying to make the buck, just like Amazon is doing with your shopping habits. When you're shopping around, I guess, for your university, it's exactly what they're trying to do to you too.
Yeah, and the thing that's so annoying about all of this is that the university is full of quasi-Marxist faculty railing against capitalism. And then you've got administrators who used to be professors, almost all of them, pretending to rail against capitalism, while all the time now scanning your kid's browser to figure out who can pay more.
Yeah, and then once now your kid actually gets into the school, now we can't even grade the kid on their merit. We can't do that either.
But once your rich kid, your privileged rich kid gets into the school because he can pay for it, we won't grade him on merit anymore.
This sounds like Lori Loughlin and Felicity Huffman all over again. Well, this is what's happening at least at one of our public universities, the Boise State University, the one and only Broncos. They are being told that, meritocracy is racist, so you can't grade actual achievement, and they're going to be hosting an upcoming seminar, get ready for inclusive teaching means inclusive grading too.
And it's logical, right? I mean, we have sold our souls for inclusivity. I've said many times on the show, forget diversity. Diversity is dead. You want to know why? Because we've got it, right? Yep. It's a diverse country. It's the most diverse country in the history of the world. You've got people of all racial backgrounds succeeding or not succeeding as they choose. So we've achieved diversity. It's not enough for the progressives now. Now, diversity has been replaced by the word inclusion, which means the minute you exclude anybody for any reason, anybody who's not treated exactly the same as anybody else, regardless of whether they try or not, whether they're smart or not, whether they study or not, you're being exclusionary. So, of course, by definition, what has to go? Grades. Grades have to go. Because grades, by definition, grade things gradently, right? I know, words have meanings, and we can't have that anymore. So here it is, the same universities that are now reading your kids' browsers to take only the rich kids who can pay, right, are the same universities now telling you, we will not grade your kids, you should not grade your kids now in universities on how well they perform, because that's exclusionary.
What's interesting, too, is this class is specifically part of this bigger program called BUILD. And explain this to me, what this means. It stands for Boise State Uniting for Inclusion and Leadership in Diversity. So they're trying to include by being diverse.
Right.
Anyway, but you can't get much info on this specific class because they have it on lockdown. I wonder why. You have to log in. Only the students can actually.
But by locking me out, you're not including me, Boise State.
This is what I'm saying.
Boise.
How dare you?
If what you really want to do is build inclusion, let me, some Joe from the street, access your secret files on this program, just like you let your teachers access it. That seems pretty exclusionary, Boise State.
It does. But they also have more classes if you'd want to take it. Of course, they've been in the news recently for all the white supremacy and all the fighting that they need to do to, fight against white supremacy. They've had faculty-focused activities, including a book circle. Have you ever been in a book circle? I feel like you should lead a book circle.
Barney circles,
Barney
circles.
So they had a book circle at BSU so faculty can dig deep into ourselves to explore the ways in which we all, as individuals, sometimes unknowingly support racism and white supremacy.
So most of the time by that, sometimes unknowingly, most of the times apparently, Boise's own faculty supports racism and white supremacy. Yep. Read the language there, right? These loser left-wing special interest group companies that come and do these programs, they are assuming that most of the white professors at Boise State are actively and knowingly engaging in white supremacy, and sometimes maybe even unknowingly. Do you see by the way, do you see how inclusive that is?
No.
We're going to assume that all white people promote white supremacy. See how inclusive that is? We're going to assume that all non-white people actually disavow white supremacy because that's inclusive.
And I'd like to point out that this is Boise State University.
Not California, Berkeley.
We are not on either of the coasts. It's in Potato Land. That's where this is happening.
In fairness, how much of the Idaho school, college, university system has been infiltrated by interlopers who are fleeing states like Washington and California and
taxes.
Oregon.
That's a good point.
Lower taxes, and then you then bring the same stupid politics with you.
That's a good point.
Hey, we sympathize for you, Boise. You're one of those states that is attractive to left-wing losers, and you've got a major university system in that state who now is practicing exactly this kind of stupidity. Way to go.
Not Idaho, Idaho.
Idaho.
All right.
Idaho, Idaho.
Just so everyone's aware, there are more build programs, including implicit bias in the academic workplace. Why are you reacting that way?
Right. In other words, if somebody
know what that one is.
No, I can tell you what it is. Somebody calls you a racist and you say, "What, me? Why are you reacting that way? Why don't you just admit your racism?" That's right.
And then finally, how accessible is your syllabus?
In other words, if your syllabus is on paper, you're destroying the environment. Yep. If your paper is printed in ink that has to be read, you're discriminating against the blind. If you put your syllabus also in Braille, then you are excluding the deaf who can't be read to. In other words, you see what this is. This is transforming every aspect of everything we do every day to have simply one focus. That is to include everybody by not excluding anybody.
There it is. Well, we're going to take a turn here and go into a high school in Atlanta at Frederick Douglass High School, where we have some really awful video of a teacher being assaulted by a student. And simply, the teacher was just trying to stop the student who was having a fight with a fellow student. So take a look at the video.
Cell phone video shows the violent moments inside of an Atlanta high school on Monday. This is video posted to Instagram that a parent sent us. It shows a 9th grade student assaulting a teacher at Frederick Douglass High School. I reached out to the school district and a spokesperson told me the teacher tried to stop a fight between 2 students. That's when one of the students began to punch the teacher repeatedly in the head. Within seconds, staff members are able to separate the student from the teacher and stop the assault. The teacher was taken to a hospital to be checked out for minor injuries. The student faces assault charges.
What we're seeing here generally, it's not about fighting. What we're generally seeing in the classroom is chaos. Kids not learning, kids not studying, kids being brainwashed in all sorts of things that have nothing to do with academic achievement. Now we've got brawls and fights. We've got all this stuff, sexual activity on school buses. It seems to me that what our schools have, they've devolved into a kind of chaos. Discipline, rules, merit, hard work, high standards, asking kids to sacrifice to achieve. These have all been jettisoned from our schools as not inclusive, as not fair, as patriarchy, as white supremacy. So basically what you've created in the schools is a kind of a moral no-go zone, right? It's kind of a Bermuda Triangle of apathy and anarchy and stupidity. And these schools and these school administrators, they can't figure out why kids are lashing out. They're either not studying, they're not coming to school, they're hyper depressed and need medicine, or they're beating each other and the teachers up because you have no boundaries, you have no rules. It is educational anarchy, and every bit of it is the result of progressive educrats, and they're messing with a system that used to be really good.
And anyone who, back in the day, if there had been a fight, because kids have always fought in school, it's happened, but it used to be where the teacher would stop it and everything would be okay. Like if the teacher cut in, that's when you stop the fighting. But now the kids,
the
who
idea
cares?
that students
Just
would turn
away.
around and punch the faculty, that's a brand new one here. But why not? When the faculty spends all its time telling the kids how morally superior they are.
And then we have years and years of experience where the administration comes out with the statement afterwards, which is the same statement that Atlanta Public Schools gave for this instance, that safety and security of students and staff is a top priority in APS and
no,
Atlanta
it's
Public
not.
Schools.
The fact that it's going on means it's not. I mean, you keep saying this thing, right? Every time another kid punches another kid, every time a kid beats up a principal or superintendent, every time a child is sexually molested in class, bullied, all this stuff. Safety and security of students and staff is, no, it's not. No, it's not. It's not your top priority. And you know what else is not your top priority? Teaching kids anything meaningful. It's not your top priority. You can say it all you want, but you've decided to go a completely other way.
And I think that sums up a nice, terrific Tuesday. As always, please share this episode and subscribe to the free audio podcast on iTunes, SoundCloud, and everywhere else. Visit drdukeshow.com, then click on any of the platforms on the top of the screen and subscribe. And don't forget to type out the one, the only 5-star review on iTunes.
And we'll be back tomorrow at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time for Freedom Project. I'm Dr. Duke. She's Katie. Until next time, my friends, stay educated.